Have you ever stopped to think about the feel of the plastic things you use every single day? You know, your phone case, the dashboard in your car. That texture, whether it's shiny or matte, is no accident. It is a very deliberate design choice, and today we're going to pull back the curtain on how it's actually made. Right? It's a fantastic question. Why does that glossy TV remote feel so smooth and, well, kind of premium, while the handle on your power drill feels rugged and grippy? I mean, they're both just plastic, but they feel like they're from completely different planets. And that difference, well, it's not random at all. It's a very specific engineering decision. And that decision gets made during a process called injection molding. This is basically the magic that lets companies churn out millions of identical plastic parts super fast and super cheap. Now, most parts come out of the mold with a pretty smooth finish on their own, but to get that specific look and feel, that requires an extra and absolutely crucial step. Okay, let's dive into what that step is. We're talking about something called in-mold finishing, and trust me, it's about a whole lot more than just making something look shiny or dull. So, what in the world is in-mold finishing? Well, it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's all about controlling the surface texture of the plastic part while it's still inside the mold. The entire goal here is to precisely dial in the roughness, making it either smoother or rougher for a very specific reason. So why even bother? Well, there are really three big reasons. First up is pure aesthetics. You know, getting that beautiful glossy feel on a high-end gadget. The second is all about function. A rough texture can give you a better grip, or, and this is cool, it can actually help paint stick to the surface. And finally, number three is cost. Sometimes you just don't need a fancy finish, and going with something simpler makes the whole thing cheaper to produce. To keep all of this organized and not just a big, chaotic mess, the industry uses a really clear classification system. So let's break down the four main grades of finish that you're gonna run into. And this table just lays it all out for us. You can see the four grades, A through D, going from glossy all the way down to textured. Now check out that minimum roughness column. This is fascinating. A grade A finish is incredibly smooth, but a grade D is almost 70 times rougher. That is a huge difference. And each one requires a totally different process, so let's walk through them. All right, starting at the top. Grade A, the super glossy finish. This is the best of the best. It's achieved using a technique called diamond buff polishing. Just imagine using a super fine, loose abrasive on a spinning wheel to gently polish the inside of the metal mold until it is literally like a mirror. The result is the smoothest, shiniest finish you can get, perfect for those premium products that need to just scream quality. Okay, next up is grade B, the semi-glossy finish. Now this one is probably the one you see the most. It's incredibly common and super versatile. Instead of that intense diamond polishing, the mold is finished with fine grit sandpaper. So the part you get is still very nice looking, it's got some shine, but it stops short of being a perfect mirror. It's really that perfect sweet spot for countless consumer products. But what if you want the exact opposite of shine? Well, that brings us to grade C, matte. Here, the goal is still to get rid of any machine marks for making the mold, but the trick is to do it without creating any reflection. You end up with a clean, consistent, non-reflective surface. This is what you want for parts that are more about function than looks. Think about internal components inside a machine that need to be clean, but nobody's ever going to see them. And finally, we have grade D, textured. This is as rough as it gets. The process is sandblasting, literally shooting abrasive material at the mold with compressed air. It just pummels the surface. And the key takeaway here is this has nothing to do with looks. This is purely about function, creating a non-slip grip, or giving paint a surface it can really grab onto. So let's put the two extremes right next to each other. On one end, you have grade A glossy. It is all about aesthetics, a smooth, premium feel for things you want to show off. On the complete other end, you have grade D textured, which is 100% about function, creating friction and grip for things that need to do a job. Two totally different goals and two totally different ways to get there. Okay, so we know the different grades now, but what actually decides the final look? It turns out it's not quite as simple as just picking a letter off that chart. There are a few other really important factors that come into play. It really boils down to three key things. First, the tooling. That's the mold itself. A steel mold will give you a different surface than an aluminum one. Second is your material choice. Some plastics are just way better at holding a glossy finish than others. And third, and this is where it gets really cool, are the process variables, things like the speed and temperature of the whole operation. Yeah, this is where the people running the machines have a ton of control. If you want a part to be glossier, you can crank up the injection speed and the temperature of the melted plastic. This basically forces the hot plastic to perfectly copy that super smooth mold surface before it has any time to cool down. As a bonus, it also helps get rid of those faint weld lines you sometimes see where two streams of plastic met inside the mold. So as we start to wrap this up, let's bring it all together. Choosing the right finish is a really critical decision where function truly has to meet form. It is absolutely not just an afterthought. This quote just nails it. Think about it. If you tried to paint a super glossy, grade A part, the paint would have absolutely nothing to hold on to. It would probably just peel right off in sheets. You need that rough, textured, grade D surface to create millions of tiny little microscopic anchor points for the paint to grab. It's the perfect example of how the finish that looks worse is sometimes the only one that actually works. So the next time you pick up any plastic object, just take a second to really feel its surface. Is it glossy? Is it matte or textured? Because now you know that whatever you're feeling, it wasn't an accident. It was a choice. It kind of makes you wonder, what other unseen decisions are shaping the world all around us? Thanks for tuning in.